We are going to begin Perek Zayin, the 7th chapter of Megillat Esther, and we plan on finishing Megillat Esther this semester of the year. We have 7, 8, 9, 10, so I will plan for it. Might even happen before the Christmas New Year break that we'll finish it. And here's my plan for the second half of this year. I would love to teach Psalms. I'd like to learn them and teach Psalms that are, you like it. I'm getting some thumbs up. Ruby said she liked the idea too. And Helen likes it, and Karen likes it. 2 thumbs up from Lance. Whoa, okay, well, this is great. So here's what I was thinking. I was thinking of the Tehillim, the day, Shir Shel Yom, the 7 days of the week. We could learn those because we say them. You like that? Great. And the ones that we say now for Israel, 121 and 130, as well as maybe we'll have, great. I love the 2 thumbs up. And things like Baruch Nafshi, which we say for Rosh Chodesh. And maybe we could do Psalm 23.
That's good, yeah. 23.
Jinx, Psalm 23. So I was thinking of making a list of the Psalms, and then what we'll do is we'll hopefully finish whatever we finish, and it'll carry us till the end of the year. And if we see we have more time, I'll just pick another couple of Psalms, because I feel like I would like to learn them and the power of Psalms and do more of a deep dive into them. Thank you, Elmer. So how does that solve?
Some of them are very disturbing, I find.
Well, after learning about anti-Semitism, I'm not sure it can be more disturbing, but I hear you. Yeah. So that's my plan. I will use Rabbi Elchanan Samet, an amazing, amazing teacher from Herzog. He might write in English also, but I know he does a beautiful analysis of Psalms. I will use probably 929. You know, I really like that site. We'll use English and we'll talk. We'll have a discussion. All right, Ruby, are we still good with that idea?
Fine with me.
Yes, okay.
You already gave me a thumbs up, so I didn't have to ask you. Okay, great, because that's my plan. And then next year, we'll think about what we're going to do next year. Okay, we're not up to that yet.
Right.
But I'm glad that you agree with me. Okay, chapter 7. Let's remember where we were in chapter 6.
I think we finished
chapter 6 last time.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Chapter 6 and 7 in many ways feel like the turning point of the Megillah. And we spoke about that a little bit, that when Haman turns to his advisors and his wife, and they say to him, make the gallows. I'm sure the king is going to want to hang Mordechai on it. And they know he's Jewish because he says Mordechai HaYehudi, Mordechai the Jew, that every time he sees Mordechai sitting in the Shar HaMelech, in the gates of the king, he gets very angry, right, because he doesn't bow to him. And they say, no problem, make the gallows. Hi, Camila. I should say hello to everybody. Camelia, hello. Alice, hello. Carol and Sai, hello, if that's who you were walking with. Felice, wonderful to see you. Lance, Ruby,
likewise.
Helen, Karen. Great. Thank you, everybody, for coming on.
Welcome.
And then the next time, remember, after he goes to the king, he doesn't even have a chance to tell the king that he wants to hang Mordechai. And the king tells him that he should take Mordechai on the horse. Everybody remember that?
Yes.
He says to him, what do you suggest we do to give honor to someone? And he, of course, thinks it's about himself, so he suggests that somebody lead that person on the horse wearing the crown. Maybe the crown was on the horse. That's possible. That the king wore at his, what's it called? Coronation, thank you. Like ordination? No, that's what I did. No, coronation. And get dressed, and in the end, it's Mordechai. And then when he comes back, remember we said there's even a midrash that says that his daughter dumps a chamber pot on his head because she thought that it was Mordechai, because he wore Mordechai's clothing. Again, that's all a midrash. He wore Mordechai's clothing as if to tell people, oh, this is Mordechai, with Jewish clothing or whatever Mordechai used to wear. And so she was taken in by that. And then remember with that midrash that when she heard that when she
Was
saw
a
it was her
fall.
father,
She
she
jumped off the roof.
she jumped off the roof and died by suicide. And that's why did they learn that? Because it says that Haman came home avel, avel like an avel. Why does he use the word avel?
That's interesting.
You could say that he's mourning the fact that he lost his position, or mourning the fact that he had to take his arch enemy Mordechai. You could say that, but it is an unusual word to use because it means avelut, which is mourning, which is what we use when somebody dies. And that's where they got this whole idea of the daughter and that the daughter died. We don't know if it's true, but this is one of the midrashim. And then when he goes back to his advisors, they say, oh, well, until now, we thought that you might be able to win. But if he's a Jew and you've started the decline with him, you're not going to make it. It's nothing is going to happen. You're never going to win, because according to the Midrashic teaching, that they knew that when God loves the Jews, things go well, or is getting along with the Jews, things are going well. But things are going well for their enemies. But once things start going well for the Jews, that means that God is okay with them, and that means you're never going to make it. Everybody remember that? That's where we ended chapter 6. What was the very last thing that happened in chapter 6? Does anybody remember? The very last pasuk.
Esther makes another mishta. She makes another meal. She invites Haman and Mordechai.
Thank you, Felice. So this last one is that the kings, whatever, have come to hurry Haman to come for the second party. Now, I read somewhere that they hurried him and he didn't even have a chance to change his clothing, but I find that very hard to believe. There's no way they would bring somebody with the chamber pot stuff on him, or filthy clothing, or wearing Mordechai's clothing. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
But that didn't make sense to me, but anyway. Okay, now we're on Perek Zayin, the 7th chapter. Vayavo hamelech v'Haman lishtot im Esther hamalka. Everybody has a Megillah in any language, some language. Everybody has something. So the king and Haman came to drink with Esther Malka. It's very interesting. On the first one, what does it say? Give me a second. I'm going to quote it for you, going back. So the first time it says that Yavo HaMelech V'Haman, you should come to the Mishtet, to the feast. And it says, Vayavo HaMelech V'Haman El HaMishtet, to the feast, which Esther, and then it does say Mishteh Hayayin, the wine feast. But this time it says that they came to drink. It doesn't say they came to the feast. It says Mishteh, the noun, means the feast. It comes from the word lishtot, to drink, that's true. But the noun means a feast. And then the second time it says Melech v'Haman came to drink with Esther Hamalka. Anybody have an idea about the difference between one night and the second night? Any idea?
Well, the second night, I don't think they finished the meal.
They that's interesting.
They only got as far as the drinks.
Good commentary, meaning, that's actually very cool, Helen. Helen is saying, remember, in the middle, it gets interrupted. And we'll see in a minute. So maybe this is showing, maybe they only got to the drinks. Let me just see. You're right, because it doesn't say they ate. That's so interesting, as if aperitif, is that what you call it, or is that afterwards? Or drinks before? So the first thing she does, or they do, is Chamberlain's, before. So they bring the drinks, and maybe they never got to the food. Very cool, Helen, I'm impressed. Very nice reading. Any other thoughts about why the second night it says they came to drink with her, and it doesn't say that the first night? Any thoughts? I mean, it's a little tricky. I didn't have an idea. Yeah.
I don't know.
Karen, we don't hear you. Start again.
Oh, sorry.
No, try again.
Perhaps
Maybe they
If you don't hear me, I
expected to
won't.
be. Oh,
All right, so text it, Karen. Wait,
okay.
Carol, did you want to?
I have a thought. Yes,
Okay.
maybe
Carol and
that
then Ruby. Wait, Carol and then Ruby. Yeah, Carol.
I have a thought that maybe Haman expected some kind of honor to be bestowed. He was expecting something special to happen. He just didn't know what it was, that it would happen to him, something really negative.
Mm-hmm.
But so he was all
So,
puffed up, and then the drink probably helped him to loosen his tongue, because
interesting. Nice.
begging, on his knee before the king was not the right thing to do.
Nice. So it's focusing on drink and what drink does. Beautiful.
Right.
Love it.
Right.
Love it. Ruby.
Well, when I think of a meal, I think of generally something that can be prolonged, can take time. When I think of drinking, it can be very abruptly stopped and it need not have any kind of
Nice.
lengthiness to it.
Beautiful. These are amazing. Go, everybody. I think these are better than the one that I read. I like them more. Karen, do you want to try again?
I just, hold on.
Stuck again. She's only stuck when she tries to speak.
No.
All right.
No, I texted it.
Okay.
All right.
Wait, you texted in the chat? Oh, yeah, look at that. Okay. Oh, maybe he expected to get drunk. Nice. Maybe they expected to get drunk because it says Hamelech veHaman. It's interesting, though, I want to say, and I didn't see anybody say this. It says Vayavo Hamelech veHaman. And he came, the king and Haman. It doesn't say, and they came. This is just in the first pasuk. Lishtot, to drink with Esther Hamalka. So I have an idea about that. I wonder if anybody else does. So interesting. When you look at the Hebrew, it says, it doesn't say Vayavo'u, and
Right,
they came.
right.
It says Vayavo Hamelech ve'Haman. Any thoughts before I say my thought?
They
were of
came
one mind.
individually.
Wait. You got to raise your hands, guys, because too many together. Helen and then Felice.
They were of one mind.
Ooh. What were their one mind, though, Helen?
We're viewing this through an anti-Semitic lens, so
Oh,
they were like in agreement.
bravo. Fantastic. I love that. And they were until now in agreement. That's excellent. And they're both maybe sort of puffed up over the idea that the queen invited just the two of them, right? Even though there's another lens that the king is jealous, right? That's another lens. So there are different lenses. Yes, Felice, what do you want to say?
I was going to say they came individually, but they had the same thing in mind.
Nice. Very nice. Or, by the way, you could say the opposite.
Yes, that's true.
You
They
can
didn't have
also, right, you can also learn that each one of them had their own agenda, right? You could do it that way too. You could do it either way.
Mhm.
You could also say Vayavo, that they each came with their own agenda. The king had his agenda or his thoughts. Haman had his agenda or his thoughts. And they didn't actually, so either way. But it's interesting that they wrote Vayavo, which leaves room for that. Because if it had said Vayavo'u and they came, we wouldn't have had a question. We wouldn't even have thought of it.
Right.
Now, one of the commentaries say that the reason that it says that Vayavo Hamelech v'Haman lishtot im Esther Hamalka, that they came to drink with Esther, is maybe the night before she was still fasting. Remember, she did it right at the end of her fast. So that makes sense logistically. It actually makes perfect sense in the context of the timeline, because it was a 3-day fast, and maybe she came to them after one day and had one. Maybe she didn't eat or drink the first mishteh, but in the second one they do. Okay, great. Terrific. That was excellent. Okay, let's do verse 2. Vayomer hamelech leEsther, and the king said to Esther, Gam bayom hasheni, the second night, or the second day, b'mishteh hayayin, at the banquet, they call it a banquet here, a banquet of wine. Ma shelatech Esther hamalka, what is your question, or your request, or your petition, Queen Esther, v'tinaten lach, and it'll be given to you. And ma bakashatech, and what is your desire, or again, your request, they have slightly different. Ad chatzi malchut v'te'as. Up until half of the kingdom, and it will be done. Okay, I'm just checking what I wrote here. The Gra says, the Vilna Gaon, by the way, he has an amazing commentary on the whole Megillah, which I've only given you pieces of it. And he says that ma she'elatech, that she'elah is what you request personally, and bakasha is a request for others. That's the difference, which actually makes sense. Like bakasha is more of a formal request, maybe, and she'elah is more personal. I mean, I think it's a good read. You could say it's just being fancy, poetic, and you could also say that there's a difference between the two. Now, he also notes this is the third time. Remember, he said with the scepter in the throne room, he said you can have half the kingdom. And then the first night, the second night. And it's really kind of foolish. Like, does it really make sense that he would give her up to half the kingdom? Not really. Because he would have to uphold, it's almost like he drank a love potion and he's irrationally beholden to her, or out of love for her. Because even if she asks for something that doesn't make sense, he still has to follow through because he promised. Although, I mean,
Do you think it's
who's there to
an
really witness it? Yeah.
do you think it's an expression, like a colloquialism, like an exaggerated statement, like a saying?
I'll give you anything your heart desires, like that.
Yeah, something like that.
It could be, but it's very specific. I'm not disagreeing with you, Carol. I think there's a lot to be said for that. But I think in those times that the king's word was upheld exactly. But that's another way of understanding it, that he didn't really mean that. He was just saying it. I hear that.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll mute
Continue.
myself.
No, it's fine. I'm happy for you to stay unmuted. People can stay unmuted if you're not adding noise. I have no issue. Okay. Pasuk Gimel. Vatan Esther HaMalka, and Esther the queen answered, Vatomar, and she said, Im matzati chen beinecha hamelech, if I found favor in your eyes, O king, v'im al hamelech tov, and if it's good, if the king is pleasing to the king, tinaten li nafshi b'she'elat. This is why. Beautiful. I didn't notice this. This is why the Gra says that she'elah is personal and bakasha is general. Because what does she say? I will be given nafshi, my soul, b'she'elati, at my request. My soul, meaning my life, will be saved. Ve'ami, and my nation, b'vakashati, with my request. So the Gra notices that when Esther speaks to the king, she uses she'elah as personal and bakasha as for her nation. Everybody get that? That's why the Gra says that. Ruby, did you get that? Did you follow? Yeah.
Ma
Not so
she'elah.
much. You want me to say it again?
Uses personal. or
No,
self.
if you look at verse 3. If I have found grace in your eye, let my life be given to me at my petition. So petition is she'elati, and that's why the Gra says that's personal, my life, and my
And
people at my
It's
request.
bakasha.
Bakashati. So that's why the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, says that the word she'elati is personal, and the word bakasha is general for others, because he sees that that's how Esther uses it in verse 3. Do you have the English, Ruby?
I don't have it, I'm sorry.
Oh, you don't have the English, so that's you only have the Hebrew?
I don't have either. I didn't, I should have had it in front of me, but
Do you want? I can wait for a minute. You can
Huh?
go get a Tanakh. I'm happy for you to
that's
wait
all
for a
right.
minute.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm just listening.
Okay. Let's remember. One second. Esther is using very good people skills to get the king to agree to her request. And she's finally going to answer, hi Robert, She's finally going to answer what Achashverosh has asked so many times. What has he asked so many times? He wants to know who she is, where she's from, what's her nation. She never answered him. That's because Mordechai said, don't do it, which feels so
Right.
relevant today when sadly the Chabad rabbi was kidnapped and killed.
Mm.
That we know that being a Jew can be very dangerous. Not understandable, but it is true. And no, that's it. That I don't. Another midrash says that she's cleverly using the two words that Achashverosh used in order to say, I have a request for myself and a request for others, for my nation. Okay. Why? What does she say? And this verse 4 is sung in the Echatrap. Ki nimkarnu ani ve'ami. Remember the Echatrap, the sad trap. We have been sold, I and my people, lahashmid, laharog, ula'abed, to be destroyed, slain, and exterminated. Ve'ilu, and if we had only been sold la'avadim, as servants, shvachot, and maid servants, nimkarnu, if we had only been sold that way, hecharashti, then I would have been quiet. Ki ein hatzar shoveh b'nezek hamelech. For the adversary, whoever the tsar is, has no consideration for the damage of the king. So, meaning, I think what that means doesn't care that the queen will be killed. But hold on one second. Yeah. She says if we had only been sold as slaves, that would be fine. Why? Because then the king would have profited. Because then the king would have received the money that you get from selling slaves. But rather, killing everyone doesn't bring anything for the king's personal benefit, which is very odd. Like, I never thought of that when I read this pasuk. But actually, if you read the words, if we'd only been sold as slaves, I wouldn't have said anything. Well, does that sit well with people? That feels a little strange to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, anyway, that's the explanation of verse 4. Okay. Going to verse 5. Vayomer Melech Achashverosh. I just want you to notice, we've discussed the fact that Melech Achashverosh refers to King Achashverosh. And when it only says Melech, there's a teaching that it refers to God. And we're going to find a few places like that in this parak. Yes, Lance?
What is the Hebrew word for adversary in this context?
In this context, Tsar.
Tsar? Doesn't that mean boss?
No. Tsar.
Tsar
Oh,
Tzava?
you mean like the Tsar?
In Joshua chapter 5, Sartzeva is
No, you're
is a
saying
host.
Sar Tzeva with an S, a sin. This is Tsar TZ.
But isn't it also Satan?
No, that's a shin.
So again, that's using a sin and not a tzaddik. Like tzaddikim, tsar. Do you hear the difference?
Yeah,
It's
no,
like
I hear it. I understand exactly what you're
So
saying.
it's a different letter. Sar Tzeva, and what was the other one you said to me? Satan.
Satan.
That also uses an S sound in Hebrew, not the tzaddik sound. It's a
But
different word.
isn't Haman a Satan figure?
It might be, but that's not the word that's used. He's a tsar meaning an oyev, an enemy, or somebody who
Who's
bothers us.
against someone.
Yeah. Tsar is your enemy. I guess that's another way. Or adversary. How's that?
Yeah, that
Right.
sounds good.
But so why not translate it as enemy?
Well, because oyev is enemy, and tsar would be more like adversary. I mean, enemy and adversary are very similar in English. They're homonym. They're synonyms, but they mean something slightly different, right?
But here it says both Sava, oh yay. It uses
Right.
both
Here
words.
it says tsar ve'oyev, enemy and adversary. You're right. It does. What was your question? Your question is, why didn't I say enemy?
No, not you. I have a Chabad translation.
What does it
And
say?
it says adversary.
I mean, I think tsar is adversary and oyev is enemy. There's two words here. Do you read Hebrew? Look at the Hebrew, tsar ve'oyev.
I
Two
couldn't,
words.
it's without vowels. I couldn't possibly read the Hebrew. I'm not.
No, but you can see the letters, tsar
Hold
ve'oyev,
on.
right? You can see the letters in
Exactly.
Hebrew.
Let's see. Tsar.
Verse 6, Vatomer Esther, ish, a man, tsar ve'oyev, adversary and enemy. Do you see that? In the
No.
Hebrew, you don't see it in the
No,
Hebrew? Verse 6?
First of all, in the Hebrew, I don't have any numbered verses here. I just have
Oh, you don't remember. Well,
translation.
if you have a Tanakh, you could just open up a Tanakh or a Megillah and you'll find.
Yeah,
Do you have a
I
Tanakh at
have the
home?
Hebrew. I have the Look, I don't mean to. I think I'm taking up too much time for nothing.
Okay.
It just translations just bother me because I find even in Safaria, the translations are wrong. I mean, for example, the word eunuch is a translation of what
Saris.
Saris, right?
Which is
Right.
true. That
But-
is the translation of Saris.
Right, but it's Christian.
Oh,
Christians are involved with eunuchs, not Jews.
How do you know? But these aren't Jews. The eunuchs were Ahasuerus's eunuchs, not the
right.
Jews. They belong to the Persian Empire, not to the Jewish Empire. So they
Right.
weren't Christian. I don't know what they were. I don't know what God they
They
worshiped.
were
Okay, so they were non-Jewish.
Yeah.
That's
The
what you're saying.
Sarisei HaMelech are the eunuchs of the king. And we
king's
assume,
household.
that they were, what's the word? I forgot, to castrate. They were castrated in order not to have designs on the king's women, I assume.
Exactly. No, I understand that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so tsar
It just bothers
ve'oyev,
me. The word adversary bothered me. That's all.
adversary is correct, and it should have said adversary and enemy because there are two words in Hebrew. Okay. Wait, 1 second. Where were we? We were on verse Hey, verse 5. Vayomer hamelech Achashverosh, and the king Achashverosh said, Vayomer l'Esther Malka, and he said to Esther the queen. So I just want to notice that you see how it says twice Vayomer, and the king Achashverosh said, and he said to Esther Hamalka, which is strange. Why? Because this is perhaps the first time that he speaks to her directly, which is, I don't know if that's true. This is what the commentary said. Ibn Ezra says it could mean haste, that he was, and he said, because maybe he's annoyed already that he asked her in the throne room, he asked her on the first feast, and he asked her at the second feast. Everybody with me in here? And she's saying, I'm going to beg for my life. And he's like, okay, yalla, get to the point. And, okay, so according to this interpretation, it says, for 5 years of marriage, Achashverosh would not speak directly to the queen. He married in his 7th year of monarchy, and now it's 5 years later in the 12th year. For all those years, he did not speak directly to her because she's not of royal lineage. And according to the Midrash, it says that she said to him, I'm descended from royalty. Now remember, we know that Mordechai is from Ish Yemini, from the Shevet, the tribe of Binyamin.
Benjamin.
And who do we know who came from the tribe of Binyamin? Anybody remember?
Shaul.
Who?
Shaul, the first king.
Go Felice. Felice is right. According to the Midrash, she said to him, I'm descended from a king. Now that I know that you're royal, now I'm allowed to speak to you. I think that the reason this Midrash comes is to show us how pomp and circumstance played such a role in this whole Megillah, in the court of King Achashverosh, in Haman. Let's remember how they stood on ceremony so much. Everybody felt that they were or weren't being respected, weren't getting their dignity. This was so important to them. Remember, what does Haman get upset about with Mordechai? That he doesn't
He
bow
doesn't
down to
bow
him.
down.
Exactly. Okay. And the person who explained it says, look how complicated it is to be caught up in the honor-seeking stratas. Okay? So he says to Esther, Mi hu zeh, who is this one? Be'ezehu, it's like, kind of like a poetic way. And who is that one? Asher mila'o libo lasot ken, whose heart was filled with to do this. Now, does Achashverosh know who the person is? Think for a minute. Who signed the decree? What did Haman say to him? There is a nation that is
Yeah.
scattered,
Right.
He knows.
right? He knows. Why is he, right? Why is he saying this to her? So, hold on one second. So, they said, why is he so shocked? So this was an answer, but in Hebrew, that Haman had said, le'avdam with an ayin, which means to enslave, but he meant le'avdam with an aleph, which means
To
to
get rid of.
yes. Well, that's a beautiful midrashic twist. So in this case, he really could be shocked, because what did Esther say? Well, if we'd been sold as slaves, I wouldn't have said anything. So this answers why she would have even said that. This answers because it closes the circle that Achashverosh thought, okay, they'll be sold as slaves because they don't listen to me. But actually, now, I don't know why it really works, because this is in Hebrew, and Haman did not speak in Hebrew to Achashverosh, but it is a nice twist on it, that as if Achashverosh is very angry. I thought Haman had told me that I should make them slaves. Esther is telling me that actually Haman wants to kill everybody. Now, I want to tell you another explanation that I heard. I want to tell you how many years ago. It was 1973. Okay, how many years ago is that?
Over 50.
50.
Yeah, it's
51.
51 years ago, or 50
51.
years ago, okay? I was in high school in Israel, and before Purim, I guess they brought us, we had a teal, we had something, I don't know. One of the places we stopped was in Netanya. People here heard of Netanya?
Yeah.
Who was the rabbi, the Rav Harashi of Netanya at the time? Rav Yisrael Meir Lau, the one who was the head chief rabbi of Israel for a while. People know him, speaks beautifully. There's a beautiful book written about him. Rav Benny Lau's his nephew, I think. My great nephew, I think, is his nephew. And Rav Lau spoke to us, to the girls from my high school in Israel. I think it was 9th grade, it might have been 10th grade, 50 years ago. And he explained it so simply and beautifully that till this day I haven't forgotten. I never heard this from anybody else. I only heard it from him 50 years ago. He said, okay, listening? He says, he doesn't go on this enslavement, he doesn't go in that direction. He says, why does he ask Esther two different questions? Mi hu zeh, who is this person, meaning the one who came up with the idea, who's trying to kill you? Ve'ezehu, and who's the guy behind the scenes who's helping make it happen? Meaning, do you know that Haman's the one who made it up, but do you also know that I'm the one who's helping make it happen? Mi hu zeh, who is this one? Ve'ezehu, and who's the other guy who's making it happen? And what does she answer? Ish tsar ve'oyev, an adversary, enemy. Haman hara hazeh. That zeh person, this person, is Haman. Well, sorry. Let me say it again. That guy is ish tsar ve'oyev, meaning, I know who that guy is. That guy is Achashverosh. He's helping make it happen. You want to know who this person is who actually came up with the idea? It's Haman. So it's a beautiful way of saying that Esther answered both questions that Achashverosh asked her. Now, she did answer it in the opposite direction. He said, who is this guy? And do you know who that guy is? And she's like, oh yeah, I know who that guy is. That guy's actually you, Achashverosh. But I know that Haman is the one who's making it happen. So again, maybe it helps to have the Hebrew, but I thought that was a beautiful explanation of these two questions, and that Esther answered with two answers. Let me, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now you can hear me. Esther is quite old, as we know. She's say to Achashverosh's face, "Oh yes, I know," and you are the. I mean,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
that's very bold, right?
Very bold.
I agree. That's a good word for her. So I have an answer to that too, but you'll wait a second. Okay, thank you. Next pasuk. So remember what she said. She doesn't name him, by the way, Karen. Doesn't name that guy. It's like wink, wink. I know who that guy is, and you know who it is too, Achashverosh, because it's you. But she doesn't say that. She's very diplomatic. The Haman, what happens? Nivaat became terrified. That's how that's the English here. Milifnei hamelech v'hamalka. From before the king and the queen. Now here, remember, it doesn't say Melech Achashverosh. So you could imagine that Haman is realizing that God, Hamelech, God, and now he realizes that the Malka, the queen, belongs to that God because she's Jewish. Everybody with me on that? We said if it doesn't say Hamelech Achashverosh, if it doesn't say King Achashverosh, then Hamelech refers to God. So now you could see, remember we said if we could learn it from the beginning, where every time it says HaMelech, it means God, and every time it says HaMelech HaChashverosh, it means Achashverosh, the king. You could imagine that he's terrified now from the God and from the queen, who he knows now belongs to the Jewish people and to the Jewish God. So things are working against him more and more and more. This is just a beautiful way to understand this pasuk. Hold on one second. There is a midrash. Hello. There is a midrash. Sorry, I'm just saying hi to everybody. I just came back from Israel yesterday. There is a, okay, well, hold on one second. There's a midrash that explains that answer of hers completely differently. Okay, so now let's put aside what I said. I mean, it's similar that Ish Tsar Voyev, a man who's our adversary, Haman, wicked, this wicked Haman. The midrash says that actually, this would not be diplomatic, this would be even more bold, that she started to point her finger at Achashverosh, and that the malach, the angel came, there are a lot of angels, by the way, in the midrash, and moved her hand to point to Haman, which is why she first said, oh, Ish Sarvoyev, an enemy, oh, actually this Haman. So that would be a different way to explain why there are 6 words. You just don't need it. She just could have said, Haman hara hazeh, this wicked Haman. Now, why the Gra, the Vilna Gaon says like this. So this is like a little bit, take a step back and think like this. It says, you know how we always say that, just putting aside the Gra a second, like why do we say Avinu Malkeinu, our father, our king? And we say, well, if we lived with kings, we would understand the awe and the grandeur of living with the king. We don't have kings in America, but I think in countries where they have kings, like in England, let's say, even though the king doesn't have so much power, like the prime minister, people feel tremendous awe and reverence to the king, to royalty. And so what the Gra says is that, how did Esther start doing that? What was she, an idiot? I mean, she's being so careful. She's couching everything in flowery, if it pleases you, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden she points her finger. That when people are on that level, when they speak to a king, they're seeing God in front of them. And because they're seeing God, it's as if she forgot herself for a moment and she needed the angel, like, hello, Esther, snap out of it. Wake up. You can't point at Achashverosh. So I think to learn from all this, you could say, oh, that didn't really happen. You could say that. I get that. But you can also say it's just a way of understanding that some people live feeling God's presence all the time. Feeling God's presence, so she could forget herself that she's in front of the king for just a moment because she could feel God was with her. And in the end, according to this midrash, God was with her because God sent an angel to move her hand. Okay. Haman Nivat, why is he so embarrassed? Okay, so let's move away from our explanation of Melech is God and Malka is the queen, because that's not the pshat, that's not the simple. Why was he so embarrassed? So Haman Nivat, what does it say by you, Lance? What is Nivat in English according to Chabad?
Terrified?
Terrified. Anybody else have a different explanation in English?
I have trembled.
Oh, trembled. Okay.
But
That's good.
excuse me, Bracha, where does it say that her finger was moved or even pointed? Where's the
I
word?
said that's a medrash. That's a
Oh,
midrash.
So they get the word etzpa from what? What would be, that's finger to me, etzpa?
No. I think it's just ish sarvo yev, a man. So you point when you're pointing,
Oh, you're saying who, yeah. Oh,
and
this
then
is,
she
yeah.
said Haman hara hazeh, this Haman. That's where they got the idea. When you say
'cause
zeh, this, you often
think it's
point. This is it, right? You often would point
right.
when you say
It's right in
this.
front of you, right?
Exactly. So according to another explanation, why was he so terrified or embarrassed? If he had just been with Esther, he would have said, "Oh, the Jews. Oh, I didn't really mean the Jews. I didn't know you were Jewish." But Ahasuerus was there. Now, like, imagine Haman. He doesn't know Esther is Jewish. He might think she's locked up in the palace. She knows nothing about all of everything that's going on. But because Ahasuerus was there, so if it had only been the queen, remember, what does it say? Niva'at milifnei hamelech v'hamalka. He was terrified or trembling in front of the king and the queen. So remember what we said, one way of understanding it's God and the queen. And another way, why in front of both of them? If he had been alone with Esther, he might have tried to say, "Oh, I didn't mean it, and I didn't know you were connected, sorry." And if he had been just in front of the king, he would have said, "Oh yeah, the Jews are terrible, but the queen, of course, will spare the queen." That's, according to this understanding, is the miracle that God planted the idea in Esther's mind to have this private party, just Ahasuerus and Haman. So this feels like a very, one thing we've been feeling throughout this whole, including the anti-Semitism, but also about maybe feeling God's hand very much helping, because if you think about it, it started with this very wide lens of all the Jews coming to the party and drinking from the vessels of the Beit HaMikdash, maybe eating unkosher food and drinking unkosher wine. And then it slowly narrows to one woman who's Jewish, who has an opportunity to save after the edict. And then it narrows even more that it's this one woman inviting the king and Haman. Right? There was a lot of what we would call in Hebrew hashgacha pratit. How do you say that in English? Somebody help me on that one.
Divine presence.
Divine providence. That's how you say it?
Intervention, maybe.
All of those. Divine providence, divine intervention. Exactly. To make this happen or to plant the idea. I just want to stop for a moment and say, has anybody here felt that? Have you ever been in kind of in a bind or in a place or in conversation or relationship where you felt like you were tied in knots in some way and an idea kind of bursts and comes to you and you think to yourself, maybe Hashem planted that idea? That ever happened to people? Like you're thankful to God that you had the idea? That ever happened? Can you think back on your life? Said, I
Very
was kind
often.
of stuck.
Very often.
Very often to you, Karen? Okay.
Very often. I listen a lot to Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg.
Somebody
And
just told me about him.
he's wonderful. And he says it's Hashem winking at you. And I love that.
Oh, what a beautiful, Hashem
I
winking.
love it.
Oh,
Hashem
I
is winking
love
at
that.
you.
That's really
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, glistening. Thank you, Karen. I just want to say that I feel that way. You don't have to, but maybe other people do as well. And that's an opportunity. Thanksgiving is tomorrow. And I'm thinking like that's something to be thankful for. Yeah, Robert, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I also inspiration at certain points, and you're in the right place at the right time, and
Right.
you have the opportunity to act.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, thank you. Anybody else want to share, or we're good? Okay. So according to this understanding, because both the Melech and the Malka, the king and the queen, were both there, Haman literally didn't know what to say. He was literally like abashed and did not know how to respond. I'm just checking if there's anything else. This is now, I just don't know if we have time. Yeah, we have time. Let's do another pasuk. One second. So the king, kam b'chamato, he got up in his anger. Anybody remember the last time we saw that he had anger? When was he angry?
Gosh,
Who remembers? Vashti, good one. Who said that?
I did.
Good one,
Lance.
Lance. Yes, it's going to come up next week. We won't have time to get to it today. Yes. I just want to point out, because there are a lot of words that repeat themselves in the Megillah, and you can trace the threads back.
Excuse me. I was
Yes.
just thinking,
Yes,
when
please.
it says, where Haman trembled in terror, I was thinking that maybe just the word speechless, he didn't know how to respond. He may have not
Right.
even wanted to tremble. He just, what should I do now? What's happening? It's going all against everything
Yeah.
is falling apart.
Yeah, but maybe frozen in terror like that?
Frozen in terror. Yeah. But
I don't know what the word.
He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say. Because he didn't know
Right.
what Esther was going to say first.
I just don't know what the root is of the word nivat. I'm not
Trembled.
familiar with it. I don't know if it's trembled or terrified. Let me see if Morphix has that. Let's just check. You never know. Maybe. I never really thought of it. I just sort of took it for granted that whatever
Oh.
it was, that I never thought of what's the root of this. Nivat. Now it might be. I mean, there are a few things I'm thinking of. Nivat.
Beis ayin tough.
Oh, literary. It's a literary word. It means to be horrified or terrified. That is what it means. To be horrified or terrified. So maybe he is horrified and terrified because he doesn't know what to say, because he knows that in front of Esther and Achashverosh, there's no way he can get out of it. He can't wiggle his way out of it. Okay. What is, in the next pasuk it says, he gets up in his anger, mimishte yayin, from the banquet of wine. To say wine a lot. El ginat habitan, which means the palace garden. And there's already a question. What does that mean, the palace garden? So there's a tradition that kings and princes had their own private garden. In fact, the person I heard this from said there's a story about Prince Philip, the one who's King Philip now, right? Is he king? He's King Philip now. King Philip, when he was prince, he had his own small garden that one day Princess Diana wanted to accompany him into the garden. He wouldn't let her, and he said that only the prince is allowed there. And she, of course, was upset, and the tabloids had a field day with that. Isn't that felt so crazy that we really don't know about how royalty acts, and that they'd have their own private garden, and that could continue until today.
He was never a king.
No, I was never a king, but we also don't have a good feel for the way kings and queens and princesses really live. I only know from fairy tales and things like that, but there's a thing about them having their own private special garden, which is where he went now. I just want to finish this pasuk, that perhaps it was this kind of garden and only the king was allowed. The Targum Shani, remember we discussed that's a Targum, it's a translation into Aramaic, said that it's a beautiful ornate garden where he planted miniature trees. That made sense to me, like bonsai trees or something. That felt very beautiful. He's so furious. His queen, who he loves beyond words, he originally thought they were having an affair, and now he finds out that not only was Haman trying to take his crown, remember we said that? Remember we said last time that Haman said to wear the crown, and that he saw Ahasuerus's face get very red, and Ahasuerus doesn't mention taking the crown. So Ahasuerus is his what's the word? Not his fury. His suspicions are being raised, and now he wants to kill the queen. And he gets up in his fury, goes out to the garden to cool off, and that would be verse 7. And we're going to. I want to say more, but I'm going to do that next time because I won't have time to finish it now. So we're going to go with the garden. We'll finish Perek Zayin, and we might even start the 8th chapter next time. and appreciating the deep dive that we do together. I loved the answers that you gave for some of the questions that I posed. I thought they were beautiful. They were really just well done and fit with the text. And next week, if you can't come in person, Ruby, you're going away, you said?
Yes,
Does that mean to Florida?
yes, yes.